I'm Scott Brady with Expedition Portal and Overland Journal, and I'm here in the forest testing the 2023 Ram TRX. This is a very special vehicle for many reasons, and it's also a very exciting truck to drive overland. Here's just some of the specs to run down to give a sense of what this super truck is all about. Let's start with the 702 horsepower, 6.2 liter, twin screw supercharged V8. This is a very powerful engine that also provides 650 foot-pounds of torque through an 8-speed automatic. It goes to a 2-speed transfer case that has 4-high auto, 4-high, and 4-low. You can also put the vehicle into neutral for towing. Talking about towing, this vehicle has, as a half-ton pickup, it has an 8,100 pound tow rating, which is actually a little bit less than a lot of other half tons in the segment, but more than enough to tow most overland trailers in conditions like we're in today. The vehicle also has 35-inch diameter tires on 18-inch wheels. And another thing that I really like about it is it has these integrated structural side steps. So they're a very small step, but it is actually a rock slider, and it's very tight tucked up against the body. In fact, I would say it's one of the very best factory sliders I've ever seen. There's a lot of things about it that I like. You can still climb up in the vehicle or access a roof rack from it, but it is tight in enough that you don't really lose a lot of ground clearance. So let's go through suspension. In the front, you've got 13 inches of wheel travel, independent front suspension, and then you've got in the rear a 5-link system with very long control arms that is connected to a coil spring, and then it does have height-sensitive suspension adjustment. These are Bilstein shocks that have 14 inches of suspension travel in the rear. As a result of that, you get one of the most comfortable and compliant rides that I've ever experienced on a trail vehicle. It's a combination of a 35-inch diameter tire, long wheelbase, wide track. This vehicle is 8 inches wider than a standard Ram. And then you have very long travel with very low spring rates. So as a result, at low to moderate speeds, it's incredibly comfortable on the trail. We haven't even aired down at all today because there's plenty of traction. The vehicle hasn't slipped even once. There's plenty of ground clearance. The ride quality is really good, so we haven't even needed to air down. But that comes at a little bit of a cost, which is an 1,100 pound payload. That's one of the challenges that a lot of these super trucks have, is by the time they get all these accessories fitted and the spring rates the way that they want them, you have a fairly low payload. You really couldn't run a big camper in the back of this vehicle, and I don't even know that you would want to. It seems like it would be a mismatch. But let's take, for example, that you wanted to tow an overland trailer off-road. It has a 500 pound tongue weight. By the time you add a 500 pound tongue weight in there, what do you have left? You have 600 pounds of payload left. So you have to be mindful of payload on these super trucks. But overall, what a fun vehicle to drive on the trail.
All right, so we're on a wide, well-maintained gravel road. So if you have a little bit of fun with it, it's not doing any trail damage. But it is really important that we keep our speeds at the posted speed limit. So we need to be in that, depending on the backcountry road, you need to be in that kind of 25 to 30 mile an hour range. But there's actually a lot of fun that can happen at the lower speeds. You just increase a little bit of yaw out of the vehicle, allow it to rotate through the tighter turns. And then open desert, there's going to be OHV areas that are going to have much higher speed limits available to them, which is nice. So then you can actually go a little bit faster. But in this case, what I'm noticing at higher speed, at posted speed limits, is that it's just extremely comfortable and kind of flickable. So in in these smaller turns here, we can kind of have a little bit of fun rotating through. That was a nice little Scandinavian flick here. But again, we're keeping it under 30 miles an hour because we're just adding a little bit of throttle to introduce that oversteer. And then we've also got lots of visibility, and we're using good communications to be able to make sure that there aren't any oncoming traffic. All right, what I'm noticing here at some higher speed is really good throttle modulation. These paddle shifters are actually kind of nice because it allows you to hold a gear like I'm doing right now. So you kind of have a little bit more more fun in the corners as you come in a little hotter.
Okay, so let's go through the pros and cons of this 2023 Ram TRX. First and foremost, it is a super truck, and in every way. The competitive products in the space, like the Raptor R, have excellent performance, but they lack that ultimate super truck feel because it doesn't have the refinement and comfort that comes with, for example, the TRX. The TRX has a premium interior, so you feel like you're driving a luxury sedan, but then you also have 14 inches of suspension travel and 700 horsepower and 35-inch tall tires. Matt Scott, my co-host in the Overland Journal podcast, purchased a TRX a few years ago, and he said it was one of the greatest grand touring vehicles he's ever owned, and that's because it is really fun and comfortable to drive long distances on the road too. Other upsides are the 35-inch diameter tires, really great functional rock sliders, overall extremely capable on the trail, rear locking differential, etc. So now let's go through the cons. And there's really just a few, but they're more prominent. It's easy to talk about price, but I don't even think that's a fair assumption. It is expensive, and it's expensive because it has so much content and because it's a low production model. That's just the nature of it. It costs money to make trucks like this. But when we look at other things for overlanding, the 1,100-pound payload is an issue. If you want to tow a trailer or you've got a couple people in the vehicle and your gear, it's really easy to push up against that 1,100-pound payload. The other thing is the 8-inch wider width. These are much wider trucks than even a standard full-size, and full-size is already big. So you have to be very careful which trails you take it on if you don't want this beautiful black truck to be completely pinstriped. And then the last thing is fuel economy. This is getting 11 miles per gallon. Now, of course, 700 horsepower comes at a cost. That's where I think we're gonna see these plug-in hybrids, these hybrid drivetrains in the future, where you end up with good fuel economy and incredible performance as well. But be mindful of the fact that you're gonna pay at the pump.